A lot of times what we want to be close to the city, but we also want to have like that $300,000 home, but we want it to be in a very nice area.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily realistic. I'm like, if you switch your proximity a little bit to go out a little bit further, then we could find you a nice home in a nice area.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just the biggest thing about younger people is just managing expectations. And you and I, we kind of went through the same thing. I like to call them the big three, right? It's typically income, credit, and then like just down payment, right? People saw people getting 2.8 interest rates and 3.5%, and that's just, it wasn't the norm prior to, COVID in 2020, right? And it's for sure not the norm now, so we just have to keep that in mind when we're starting the process. I just sold a home to a 22-year-old in DeSoto.
You and I met in the auto industry, and I know you've worked other sales and jobs and industries before. What are the similarities there and skills or traits that you picked up from working in those other industries that has helped you out in real estate?
I'll be honest, I think the biggest similarity is that they are all built around the same one common factor, right? Which is people. People, and then just, your ability to market, your product, but also market yourself, right? So honestly, just consistency. Pretty much doing the same thing. So let's say car sales, for example, or tech sales. We're all managing, the CRM system. So we're managing people and, activity. So yeah, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's a different product.
Is it higher price point?
Right.
Hey, that's why I say all the time. What I do is sell businesses. Same to selling a car or selling a home is just
I'll be
a couple
honest.
more commas.
At this stage of my life, I've sold pretty much everything. I feel like I've sold technology, I've sold telecommunications, I've sold cars, furniture. Yeah. But housing has kind of always been my focus and what I wanted to do. And it's a different feeling when I'm selling someone, basically the biggest purchase that they'll ever make in their life.
Yeah.
But my favorite part about selling houses is like when I hand them the keys, especially for people that didn't think home ownership was attainable.
Yeah. I like that. Is it hard for someone to buy a home today?
No. I think that it's like certain things are tighter, especially on the lending side, and there's a bunch of things that play into that. Let's take 2008 for example. I think that's when everything just became a little bit different, and then I guess the lending became a little bit tighter just because they were so lax that's what caused the 2008 housing crash. So, but I don't think it's difficult. I say that, but then under the current administration, a lot of things have changed. For example, I'm working with someone out of Nigeria currently, and a year ago, it would have been relatively simple for him to buy a home, especially under, let's say, FHA, so a government-backed loan. Now, if you don't have U.S. citizenship, then you have to go more of a conventional kind of private lending route.
So that's something new.
Yeah, so this actually happened back in May. The Trump administration changed it to where unless you're a U.S. citizen, you can't use an FHA loan, which is a government-backed loan.
Yeah.
So it just causes you to pivot. There's still ways around it.
Yeah. How often do you have international clients or clients without? Is it a common thing?
Being in Dallas, I've had a few, but most of my clients are U.S. citizens, so not often.
Yeah. And for a young person looking to buy a home, I think about my home. I was like 26, 27. What's the experience like? I know when I see online and read, articles, it's always constantly talking about how young people can't buy homes, people can't afford like the interest rates, the environment. For an aspiring young professional who's built a good career, got a little bit of money, how can they get a home?
I just sold a home to a 22-year-old in DeSoto.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just the biggest thing about younger people is just managing expectations. And you and I, we kind of went through the same thing. Biggest thing is being flexible on, location.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what we want to be close to the city, but we also want to have like that $300,000 home, but we want it to be in a very nice area.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily realistic, right? So again, like when you and I were going through the process, I'm like, if you switch your proximity a little bit to go out a little bit further, then we could find you a nice home in a nice area.
Yeah.
So it's been really just about expectations, I think.
Yeah.
And then when I talk about expectations, we can't have the same expectations that we had in, let's say, a 2020, and that's what I run into a lot. people saw people getting 2.8 interest rates and
Yeah.
3.5%, and that's just, it wasn't the norm prior to, COVID in
Yeah.
2020, right? And it's for sure not the norm now. So we just have to keep that in mind when we're starting the process. But that's also something that's, has to be at the forefront of my mind, because I need to set my clients up to understand that, we're not going to see a 3%. Not likely.
Yeah, those are historically low rates.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
I think our parents were probably saying 15%.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
Back
what I
in the
mean?
day, it was in the last,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's just about expectations. And I think that's the biggest part of the entire process.
yeah. So, what have you seen? You mentioned expectation as a quality that a buyer should have. Good expectations, proper expectations. What have you seen that the top 3 or 5 things that they don't have that has killed the deal, that has, you know, totally changed the process there and not the ideal way, and what buyers should avoid when first stepping into buying a home or looking into exploring?
Well, I think when you're looking to explore homes, one of the biggest things that you need to keep in mind, one of the biggest things that you need to have, first off, just clean documents and verifiable income. That's what I run into a lot, especially like when I'm dealing with people who are more 1099 or self-employed. I'm running into like they don't manage their funds. So it's really about like strategy. I think that, if you're looking to go into the home buying process, you need to start talking to professionals. I used to say 3 to 6 months out, but I think we're now probably 6 to 12 months out, because there's been a lot of changes, right? Let's just talk about the situation that I'm dealing with right now, which the guy, isn't a U.S. citizen, but had we started talking about this 6 months ago versus like 3 weeks ago, he could have set himself up to make sure he has the proper documentations, he has, the proper also financial backing as well, right? Because that's what I run into a lot. Just people,
You have a good personal financial management. So now you're saying you need
exactly
to
right.
start earlier, especially if you're 1099 self-contractor, managing that. Because if you're W-2, you
It's
pay your
simpler. It's a
taxes.
lot
Yeah,
more simple.
yeah,
It's a lot simpler, right? If you W-2, but if you're, let's say, 1099, or even like me as a realtor, right? Like, you need to be talking to real estate agents, you need to be talking to your lender, you need to be talking to your tax guy,
yeah,
right? So that way you can set yourself up for proper success.
yeah. Okay. What are the other things?
Credit.
Yeah,
Those are typically the biggest things. I like to call them the big three, right? It's typically income, credit, and then so it's usually income, credit, and then like just down payment, right? Those are the biggest barriers to home ownership, I think. But also, there's ways to pivot around those things as well if you start talking to the professionals early.
yeah. What's the most expensive home you've ever sold?
Actually, it was during COVID. It was 2.2 million, and it was a cash purchase.
Cash purchase, 2.2.
Yeah, it was a guy I went to college with, and I was like, man, I have been second guessing my have been second guessing my career. We went to the same program.
What does he do?
Logistics, supply chain.
Okay.
Yeah, logistics and supply chain. He worked for some pretty big company for a
Yeah.
long time, Amazon, and just a smart guy in general, right?
Yeah.
Smart with like his investments, smart with like how he just like manages his money, and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the biggest purchase. And like it was such a fulfilling purchase because it took us a long time to kind of find the perfect house.
Yeah.
It took us about a year to find the house, and in that process, we leased some stuff as we kept looking, and then like also it's crazy because after he bought the house, he just didn't even move in for another 6 months to a year, I think, because he wanted to renovate it.
Yeah. Oh wow. So put
So
some more money into the house.
yeah, so that was the biggest purchase I've ever had, and then one of the second, I guess the biggest second transaction was probably like I did like a 2 townhome deal.
Yeah. Is that for a developer? Someone looking to buy and then rent out, or or
So yeah, they were looking to do a little bit like an STR.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, STR, short term rental.
Yeah,
Right.
short term. Yeah, okay, okay. I see. I see. Do you mostly have homeowner buyers, or those that are looking to build a real estate portfolio buyers?
So I at this stage of my career, I do a little bit of both. Like right now, I'm currently, I got a guy that I'm basically helping him build his investment portfolio out in the Mesquite area. His strategy is great because it's really crazy that he buys in the exact same zip code. Like he probably has 20 plus tenants in this exact same 5 mile radius.
Yeah.
So I help a lot of first time buyers. Once I got into like year 3 and 4, I started helping a lot of sellers, and now I'm starting to get into that investment space.
Yeah. What's the difference between a homeowner buyer and an investor buyer? Like, how do they approach, the home buying process differently or similar?
It's very numbers focused when you're an investor. It's all about like, margins.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay.
like this guy, for example, when he goes to buy a house, he knows exactly like how much he's gonna make per tenant, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's easy because if I'm talking to my lender up front, I can go to my lender and say, "Hey, this is the house I'm looking at. Can you run the numbers for me? I know that my mortgage might be $2,000, but I also know that I can rent this property for 3,500. Versus if I'm a buyer, there's a lot of things that go into my thought process when I'm looking to find a property, right? First off, big one is proximity, and typically it's proximity to like a certain school or job, right? Numbers are extremely important, but I think that there are a lot of other factors, and proximity is one. Safety ratings, schools, all of that goes into play. Versus if I'm just an investor, I care about the return.
Yeah. So I know you've seen thousands of homes. Do
Yeah,
you have a dream home, or is it like, man,
I'll be
how
honest.
many multiple to
I
to?
don't think that I don't necessarily believe it that this is a perfect home, right? I think it's a perfect home for like that phase of life that I'm in.
Okay,
You know what I
where you
mean?
at? So it's like tiers based on where.
Exactly. Like right now, if I was to buy a home today, definitely would want like the common space is very important to me, right? Common space, and then let's say my outdoor space, and that's because I like to entertain.
Yeah,
And then these are very visitor facing like areas, right? So those are probably the most important parts of the home for me.
yeah, and that's at your current stage right now.
Yeah. What about you? Are you in your dream home?
No, I wouldn't say that, but I like to think that I have an idea of, a dream home. My dream home would
Well,
be
I'm taking new clients right now.
something. Well, I need to make more money.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know once the deal's closed here. But like my dream home is somewhere like secluded. Well, it doesn't have to be in this. So I don't want to be like 2-3 hours away from everything. I'm not one of those type of people. But like, I guess a lot of tree covering because I want like a glass house, like all glass. Like I don't know. I've always thought that was just cool. Like I come out and I can just see nature. But I'm private, but like it's like one with nature.
I know the perfect home for you right now. It's all glass, 2.5. You can set up a
And
tour as soon
I
as
don't
you're
think
ready.
I can do 2 point. Wait, real estate. Real
I think
estate.
for me, I'm kind of the opposite. I've been downtown, what, 7, 8 years,
Yeah.
and I kind of like city living,
Yeah.
right? But then again, the older I get, I am considering more suburban life.
Yeah. Honestly, when I purchased, I remember I looked at, I wanted to be closer to the
Right.
city, and I looked at a townhome in the medical district there. I think it was, yeah, it was in the medical district, man, closer to. I had no plans of moving to DeSoto. No plans of
And that
entering
area
my
is like
neighborhood.
way more developed than when you look.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the second biggest transaction I just said that I was just speaking of.
yeah. Was
Right up the sidewalk.
Yeah, we're close by. They're buying,
Yeah.
and I feel it because they were building a lot of things. But I think I've really enjoyed my time in the suburban life. I don't have a family yet or kids or anything like that, but I enjoy the peace and quiet. It keeps me from outside. I will say that, and that's just
Important.
yeah, it's the best of my abilities. So that's been a huge positive, and my neighbors are amazing. And also I know it's not common with all neighbors, but I don't have an HOA. So that is great because I know with the home that I was looking at, they had a 250 a month HOA, and price for half the size was of this house was very similar in purchase price. I remember I was like, "Man, this was 90,000 over a 30-year
So I'm
mortgage."
glad you talked about HOAs because you mentioned something earlier, and that is something that younger buyers are looking at also, like areas without HOAs. Investors 100% tend to like,
Yeah,
focus on communities that don't have HOAs just
yeah,
because they don't have to worry about any type of restrictions. Because HOAs, they're very they can be very controlling. Like
yeah.
for example, some communities like you can buy your home, you can't even lease it
Oh,
because they only have a certain threshold or percent of people that can lease in that community.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that until after they move in, then they read the bylaws. So,
And then they're looking at investment.
but HOAs, they also have their advantages, right? Like they do a lot of times maintain they kind of maintain the image and everything of the community,
Yeah.
which also, if you move into a community that's, well maintained, clean, consistent. And what I mean by consistency is like, the type of houses, the trees and things like that. It tends to help with your resale value later. And resale is something that I focus on from the very beginning. Started a conversation with a client. How is this home going to sell, resell, 3 to 5 years later? Because that's about the average time that most people stay in their first home.
Yeah, I'm getting very close to that. I've surpassed the 3. I'm at like 3.5. I think like 3 and
But also, I mentioned earlier, I said, year 3, 4 is when I started to have more listings, but that's because my early clients
yeah,
started wanting to upgrade their homes for various reasons, whether that
yeah,
they started a family, they moved for work,
yeah. And
or the perfect home just wasn't so perfect anymore, right?
yeah, yeah. To your point earlier, no such thing as a dream home. It's just the timing of where your life is at that point
Right.
that fits your needs and things like that. There. So, I'm curious. You got into the game. What advice do you have for new real estate agents or those that are interested in with the challenges that you've seen and you've overcame there? What do you think a new real estate or someone looking to explore entering the career should be aware of?
I think that you should, I think that what's happening right now is that people see like the glam of real estate and they don't realize that that's the content and all of that. That's the easy part, right? But that does, bring you clients, the consistency of your content. But I think that you need to have a strong, like, you need to have some emotional intelligence if you're in this business because, especially that first year is extremely hard. I'd say that like the majority, probably 75% or more, don't even sell a home their first year. They tend to just get discouraged and maybe like exit the business, right? And I think right now also, managing your own expectations. Don't go into this thinking that, you're gonna sell 50 houses, you're gonna jump into luxury real estate. Uh, so for me, for example, I was fortunate, like my first couple of years, I've been relatively consistent, but also it's due to like my network from my other business that I run, right? But that's not the norm for most people. So I'd say just, have some emotional intelligence, understand that it is an uphill battle, to build your business, but it's a long term game in my opinion. So just,
Yeah.
understand that, it's gonna take a lot of work.
Yeah, I feel. What does your first deal look like? When
My first deal was a town home in North Garland, so kind of like that Richardson area, like right off of like 75 in Spring Valley. It was actually a friend of mine who was an ex colleague of mine at Hewlett Packard,
yeah, okay,
and it was relatively easy because it was a builder. My first two deals were like new construction,
yeah.
and new construction compared to like resale is like
It is the
one is just just kind of easy. Especially if it's new construction with a builder versus like yours was new construction in infield, like an infield community, which is like a community that's already developed and they started putting new homes in it.
okay.
Kind of like West Dallas, right?
Yeah,
So it was relatively simple, those two deals.
versus a resale of
Resale. And what I mean by resale is like a home that's, older home and not necessarily older, but like somebody's already lived in it.
like if I sold my home, that would be a
Exactly.
resale.
It'd be a resale deal
Got
versus like a new
Yeah,
construction.
yeah,
And I like to say their new constructions are easy, but then they also pose their challenges as well because builders tend to have their own contracts, their own lingo. They're not necessarily regulated by TREC, which is the Texas, Real Estate Commission. So, like for example, right now I'm fighting a builder for $10,000.
wow.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and challenges. How do you solve that?
um,
Is
honestly,
it
like
CBD?
honestly, a lot of it's communication. Like I'm big on like telling new realtors make sure you document everything. So I'll get on the phone, but also I tend to follow up with like an email or a text message. That way I got a paper trail, right?
Yeah,
This situation is a little bit different. So, I'm actively working through, how we can, get
get
this
to the
10K
resolution.
back.
Yeah, I know that time management is a big thing around real estate. You're self-employed, self-starter. What does a day in a life look like for James Barker? What does your morning look like? What does your afternoon? What does your evening look like in a real estate?
Honestly, it kind of just, it changes. But, for the most part, like I get up, I already got probably some text messages, some emails, and it kind of depends on like what you have going on like that day or that week, right? Like if I don't have any deals, then it's really focused on lead generation. So I'm going to get new content. I'm reaching out, to my pipeline, following up with people.
Mm.
Um, I tend to always have a client because like I also lease, so I
Yeah.
help people find like lease homes and apartments and things like that. And so I'm kind of always doing like got a few tours set up every week. But most of the time, it's just like cleaning up my pipeline and working on marketing material because I think that's my biggest lead generation
Yeah.
generator is like social media.
Yeah.
So I'm usually like doing content.
Yeah, to get them how big has social media been for your business as you grow?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
The majority of my clients have come from like an Instagram or a TikTok. You know, so I do really well with social media, but also just my sphere of influence, just people that I know. I don't work with a lot of people that I don't kind of have a relationship with unless they're like a referral. But yeah, day in the life is just pretty much just like checking my CRM in the morning and then kind of just trying to lead generate, find some new clients because I mean that's what it is ultimately. And if I have actually have something under contract, then I'm working through contracts, which is probably my least favorite part about being a real estate agent.
Or working through the contracts?
Well, I could kind of breeze through them now, but like it's just busy work.
Yeah.
So most recently I've kind of hired like a TC, which is like a transaction coordinator, kind of like focus on my contract. I kind of just tell her what to into the contract.
Yeah. I know there's been a growth in, young black professionals, like, acquiring homes and a growth in that. How challenging, if there are any challenges in black professionals or black people acquiring homes in the market that you've seen, that you've experienced, or do you face any challenges in that, or any different than any other demographic?
No, I haven't really faced any real challenges. I don't think. None that I guess I noticed anyway.
Yeah. Like,
But we're talking about discrimination. Yeah, it does happen.
yeah.
So like, oftentimes, I have to tell my clients to like when they're looking to like sell their home, you know, make it less. It doesn't need to be like super personal, like your
Yeah.
home, like the setup.
Oh, the setup make
Right.
yeah.
For
Like,
example, I'd probably tell you take a picture down.
yeah, okay, okay.
If we're being honest, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing, like, picture I have in, a picture that I have in my house of anything, and that's
Yeah. So yeah, it happens.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, being less personal, in the process of selling your home, but not so much challenging on acquiring a home in the Texas market or Dallas market that you've seen.
You said there are challenging selling homes.
No, no, you said there was one in, if you're selling a home, make it less personable, in terms of your, how you set it up. But
Well, I said
selling process, what about the buying process?
so the buying process is where I have like the majority of my experience. Buying process again, like it depends on which route we're taking. Like if we're going new construction, is relatively simple. We find a house, put some earnest money down, negotiate, concessions and closing costs and things like that, and then we just kind of wait.
Yeah.
Right, whether that's waiting 3 weeks or whether that's waiting 6 months, it's a little bit different when you're talking about buying like a resale home because it's a much longer like process because you go through things like the option period,
Yeah.
right? Which could be, 5 to 10 days. And then that's when you have the opportunity to back out of the transaction for any reason. And it's also when you do due diligence, which means like you go through inspections, you try to figure out what's wrong with the house.
Mm.
Like I just lost a deal. Well, I didn't lose a deal. We kind of canceled the deal last week because once we went through our second inspection, it was named Deb. So it was about, we got kind of like cost estimates, right, on certain things that we were going to need like corrected or fixed. And it was just going to be too much of a project. We are going to have to paint all of the walls, change some plumbing out and things like that. So my buyer just elected to, cancel. And then, we go look for another property, investment property, right? Then you go through things like, you go through the option period, then you go through things like the appraisal process. So while I could maybe close a new construction deal in, 2, 3 weeks, a resale may take, 30 days.
Mm.
I think the fastest I've ever done one is like 14.
Wow, that's pretty quick. I'm curious, how much money does someone need to have, when purchasing a home? Like, and what are the price point? If you're looking at $300,000 house, how much money do you need? 400,000? How much money do you need?
So it kind of depends, which a lot of things in real estate
Yeah.
depend, right? So it depends on the type of loan you're going with, right? So most of my buyers have used like FHA, which is a government-backed loan, right? And it requires 3.5% down.
Yeah.
And then you typically want to like guesstimate about 1 to 2% of the sales price for closing costs. So let's say right now I'm doing a $420,000 house. His estimated cash to close is with deposit and closing costs is around 25,000. So you got that 3.5%, and you got about for him he has about 12 to 15K in like closing costs. So just kind of depends. But like if I'm going conventional, it could be upwards of 20%, right? Which that's something a lot of people have the misconception that all conventional loans are 20% down, but I've done a 3% conventional loan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it
Interesting.
just kind of
I
depends
thought
on
it was
like
gonna be around five.
credit income, DTI, things like that.
Yeah.
Because the rate is, I mean, the down payment is a part of it, but then the closing cost is the other part. But then you have to factor in other. I tell people that those are just upfront costs, right? But you have to factor in other stuff like inspections, right?
Yeah.
Which could range from $500 to $1,000. That's another cost. And then I try to prep people for after purchase expenses.
Yeah, you gotta furnish the house.
I know you were talking about getting $20,000 drapes.
Oh my God. I still don't got,
See what I'm saying? That's just one. Blinds are expensive.
yeah. That's, I saw something recently, I think a tweet about like things that, as a kid, you didn't realize was expensive as an adult. And one of the things were,
Yeah, I was a kid, 20 something years ago, so they maybe probably weren't expensive. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just like, I try to prep people for all of that because it costs a lot of money to get into a home. But then also, I've had experiences to where like it didn't cost my clients anything.
yeah.
I think one of my favorite deals is like my client got $8,000 back after closing.
Oh,
He made money.
in concessions from this, or
We negotiated some stuff. And
Yeah.
actually, he made $8,000 for buying a house.
wow, okay.
But it was a combination of a lot of things, right? Because I think with real estate, especially on the financing side, that's probably the most important part for most people, right? You just have to be creative.
Yeah.
You have to be creative, right? Like him, for example, he was a vet, so
Okay. Yeah.
veterans don't have to pay closing costs and down payment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know what I mean? So he was already moving in for that price, but then the builder was actually offering concessions. So, I kind of negotiated, all right, since, you're already offering this money for us to
Yeah.
move forward, can we get this, can we get a check for that amount?
Okay. That's
And how I framed it was, he has after purchase expenses.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So that shows your expertise as a skilled realtor.
I guess you have to be
You-
creative.
A new realtor, that's game for a new realtor to have. Like they understand how to negotiate the game, and there's also clients or potential clients who will like to work with you to have, you have that keen eye to pull out where a deal could be had or a deal could be made. So what does tomorrow look like for you? What's your vision, for your real estate business, and how does that look like?
So currently, I'm looking to build a team. Like I'm already in the school to get my broker's license. 'Cause I just recently hit 6 years, so I think that's the next step for me is to build my own team. And I want to build out a team of like maybe a couple of realtors that actually help buy and sell, but then also I want to build my apartment locating business,
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and build it out.
which is essentially its own like kind of entity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How I know with these AI tools that help scrape the web. How are you going to use AI, or how's AI impacted your real estate business?
So how I want to use it is I want to find something that can copy my likeness, so I can tell it what to do and put it on YouTube. That's what I want to do, right? But I use ChatGPT for a lot, right? Especially when I'm looking to send emails or I want to quickly interpret like a contract. For example, the deal that I'm currently working a new construction deal. So basically, I just download it, put it in ChatGPT, and tell them to like give me the main points.
Yeah.
And it just allows me to do that in a couple of minutes versus like having to read 30, 40 pages.
Yeah. No, that's true. I use that all the time for quick summaries and where I can easily get the key point.
And also, it's good for like and it's getting better at analyzing the market. Like if I want to like identify like some of the top zip codes for investors right now.
Yeah.
And, even in terms of like, I'm looking to launch a YouTube channel in the coming months, and it's very great for ideas, but it's also very great to give me like market knowledge on like what's coming to the DFW.
Yeah. How can aspiring home buyers and investors find James Barker?
So you can find me on Instagram, j.barker_realtor.
That's
So that's the easiest way, or you
Yeah.
can call me
okay.
at 501-499-1992.
Okay. Say that one more time, because I don't.
All right, 501-499-1992.
Okay.
That's the quickest way to reach me.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Phone call, text, like they can get to you.
I'm always available.
Okay. And when you looking to launch your brokerage?
So I predict that it'll take me another 30 to 60 days to actually finish the courses, and then I have to go through the process of like making sure So when you go looking to be a broker, there's a couple of different ways you can approach it. You can just go straight through broker school, but then in my situation, I was able to bypass a lot of the hours just because of my bachelor degrees are in business. So I was able to like bypass the majority and like just focus on 30 hours. So I'm looking to launch this at the top of the year.
Yeah, okay.
And I think 2026 is gonna be my biggest year yet.
Yeah.
Through for a couple of reasons. I think that if I can build out this team, when I build out this team, that's gonna help me a lot, free up a lot of my time, but also, helping the marketing aspect, but also just having that broker accreditation behind your name,
Yeah.
you know, it
That's
just looks good and like, people it builds a little bit more trust.
yeah. Do you have a name for this upcoming brokers?
I don't, but last year and you've been one of my for the property collector, you've been
Yeah.
one of my sponsors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm actually considering just calling it the property collective.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Very, very clean. Very clean.
So
What's wait, before we, when's the next time you're gonna have a another property collective event?
I'm hoping for October.
Okay.
I think things just kind of got busy, and then
Yeah.
a lot of market changes happened, so it kind of slowed me down a little bit. But I'm hoping to revamp in October, and then have that consistent bi monthly, event every other month, right? So I'm thinking October.
Yeah.
Just trying to identify the right venue.
Yeah. And can you quickly is touch on what the property collective event is?
So the reason I wanted to start the property collective is basically to have everyone in the real estate industry like network with each other, because I think that's how you grow in real estate by working with others.
Yeah.
But also people see real estate agents, right? They don't see every other, I guess, profession or person that impacts like a real estate transaction. So let's just say you looking to buy a house, or I have somebody looking to buy a house. They don't realize that knowing inspectors and like those prices and things like that. So
Mortgage
I
lender.
bring everybody together, right? So we can just kind of network and figure out how we all grow together. And I'm always looking to build my Rolodex as well. So that's kind of the reason. Because essentially what it is if you've been to like pretty much all of them, right?
Yeah.
I have everybody that can impact the real estate transaction. I have lenders, I have roofers, I have inspectors, appraisers.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know all facets of the business.
Yeah, no, it's certainly,
Want to be successful.
certainly great. One of my college buddies met a lender there at the property collective event, and used him to actually purchase one of his investment properties. So, I've seen it, firsthand, the value and the benefit of the event. So
And I think it's good for people that are looking to like especially people looking to get in the investing space, right? If you can come there, you can meet a contractor, you can meet somebody like a builder, for example. Because like me, for example, I want to get into more of the development space in 2026 as well.
yeah,
So there's been people there that I think that can actually help me, accelerate that process.
that's great.
But also it's for other people that are coming to the event to, find those resources and utilize them.
Yeah, no, that's great. Again, Mr. Barker, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come by the pod year. It's not that hard. Stopping by my house that you sold me. Very beautiful home. I say thank you.
It is nice home.
Thank you. Thank you
So
so
I
much.
appreciate you for having me.